Hi, I'm Kat, and I'm back with episode 3 of my original novella of Pomegranates and Daffodils, a modern-day retelling of Hades and Persephone's love story. Persephone. Percy, dinner's here, my mom called from the kitchen. I had been so wrapped up in schoolwork I hadn't heard the doorbell ring. We typically had our dinner delivered. Neither one of us was any kind of chef. It saved the taste buds and sour stomachs having our dinner brought to us versus one of us trying to make it. "I'm coming, Mom," I called back, saving the document I was working on before swinging out of my swivel chair. I could hear my stomach growling angrily as I headed down the hall to the kitchen. Tonight smelled like we were eating Chinese from downtown. The scent of house noodles and orange chicken caused my stomach to growl louder, and I hurried into my seat at our modest round table. I served myself a plate full of the dishes my mother had ordered. "Are you going to tell me what's put you in such an angry mood tonight, or do I get to play 20 questions until you break down and tell me anyway?" my mom asked, taking much smaller portions than she used to. Her appetite's not what it used to be. She has always had a finger on the pulse of my feelings, no matter how hard I try to lock them down and maintain a logical and unbiased outlook. Some rich douchebag nearly ran me over on Main Street today, and then he had the audacity to yell at me for his stupid car being out of control on the ice. I growled, taking angry bites and chewing overly aggressively. "Stupid handsome man." My mom's face paled, her fork dropping with a clang against her plate. "I think you might have thought to share this with me when you got home, and not just right now." She gulped in breaths, trying to calm her nerves and talk to me simultaneously. I watched her in amusement as she reached for her wine glass and empties it before looking back at me, clearly upset with my announcement. "I survived. I'm here," I growl, frustrated about the whole unfair situation. I mean, who even looks that good while mowing down helpless teenage girls? Serial killers? So unfair. I made it home either way. I didn't get a number or anything, just humiliated in the middle of traffic. I highly doubt I'll ever see him again. Not that I wanted to, right? I was even more angry at myself for being obsessed over the situation, and more so the man himself. "I hope you don't, but Persephone, you're my only daughter. You know what I would do if anything ever happened to you." She set her glass down and met my green eyes with her worried brown ones, tears tracking down her cheeks dramatically. "You're all I have in the world, Persephone, and I want you to act like you matter, because you do." I pulled a face at her emotional outburst. It made me almost as comfortable as her use of my full name. Why she would name me for some long-dead Greek goddess must be a cosmic joke at my expense. I'm only glad my mom didn't choose the original name of the goddess, Kor, but with a last name like Spring, it seemed a little on the nose, even for my mom. When I asked her why she would do this to me, she would sigh softly and get a soft look in her face like my name was romantic, and tell me that the story of Hades and Persephone had been one of her favorite ones in the school. When all of her girlfriends had been sighing over the tragic romance of Romeo and Juliet, she had been pulled to the happy ending of the god of the underworld and the goddess of spring. So I got the name Persephone Spring. While we live in the frozen wasteland of Detroit, Michigan. Everything is wet and icy 6 months out of the year. I feel the irony every day of my life. "Percy, are you listening to me?" My mom brought my attention back to her. My mouth was still chewing slowly through one of my favorite dinners before my eyes snapped back to her, back to the present. "I'll be more careful, Mom, I promise," I swore to her, swallowing my mouthful. "You'd better, baby. I just don't know what I would do without you." She gazed at me, tears still overflowing in her eyes. I wished for the 100th time she'd tell me what was wrong with her. But like Demeter of old, my mom kept her secrets close to her chest. Hades. He'd thought he'd never see her again. It had been so long since she'd reincarnated that he thought he'd lost his chance at being rejected so many times, and that she had simply decided to fade into the ether instead of engaging in this mortal coil one last time. She was his one and only soulmate. He was only given the one, and Hermes had nearly run her over and forced him to wait for another generation for the chance to find her and try again. So many incarnations already, he wouldn't have blamed her for not wanting to go through this old song and dance anymore. Hades ran a long, pale hand through his inky hair, closing his eyes and tipping his head back to take a deep draught of the 100-year-old bourbon, the ice in the glass clinking with the movement. "Rough day, baby?" purred the sultry tone of his receptionist The nymph was as succulent as ripe fruit, her curves full with tiny, nipped-in waist. She had long brown hair, the original color of a dark green that showed through every now and then when she needed to re-dye it. Mint was everything any man would want, and Hades hadn't been about to turn away her attention, but today, everything had changed.